Good morning, you're watching AnewZ. I'm Dilek Tuna. Here are the headlines. Syria announces a ceasefire after the latest outbreak of violence. The European Union fails to approve new sanctions on Russia. Devastating floods have hit parts of the US, leaving 2 people dead and entire neighbourhoods underwater. A deadly week of violence in Syria's Druze majority Suwaida province may be easing after Damascus announced a ceasefire and Israel launched strikes in defense of the Druze community. Nearly 100 people have been killed and the humanitarian situation remains dire.
In Syria's southern Suwaida city, a tense calm hangs in the air after the Ministry of Defense announced a full ceasefire. The decision follows days of deadly clashes between Druze militias and Bedouin tribal fighters that killed at least 99 people. According to the UK-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, the dead include 60 Druze among them, 4 civilians, as well as 18 Bedouin fighters, 14 government troops, and several unidentified individuals. The Defense Ministry confirmed 18 military casualties. The violence, which began Friday, quickly spiraled into street battles across the governorate, forcing thousands to flee and prompting the imposition of a citywide curfew. On Tuesday morning, convoys of Syrian army tanks and trucks rolled into the city, with the backing of Druze spiritual leaders who had earlier urged fighters to surrender and allow government troops to restore order. But by the afternoon, the tone shifted with top Druze cleric Sheikh Hikmat al-Hajri accusing government forces of violating ceasefire terms and shelling residential areas. The ongoing chaos triggered a swift response from Israel, which launched airstrikes on Syrian positions in Suwaida and near Damascus. Tel Aviv framed the move as a defense of Syria's Druze minority, a community with deep ties to Israel. Prime Minister Netanyahu stated that Israeli forces were ordered to strike Syrian units entering Suwaida, vowing to prevent harm to Druze civilians and maintain the demilitarization of the Israeli-Syrian border zone.
For more on this, we go to Blake Sifton, who reports from Tel Aviv.
The Israeli military carried out what it called exceptionally large-scale attacks on a Syrian military convoy as it approached the Druze city of Suwaida in southern Syria on Tuesday. That city has been the site of clashes between militias from the Druze community and Bedouin clans, at times backed by the Syrian military, over the last few days that have seen the deaths of dozens of people. The Israeli military said that the airstrikes targeting this convoy targeted tanks, armored personnel carriers, as well as multiple rocket launchers. And these attacks Tuesday followed earlier Israeli military airstrikes that targeted a convoy of Syrian tanks as they also approached the city of Suwaida on Monday. Under pressure from its own Druze minority, the Israeli government has positioned itself as the protector of Syria's Druze community following the downfall of former Syrian President Bashar al-Assad in December. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Israel Katz said in a joint statement on Tuesday that Israel is committed to preventing harm being inflicted on the Druze in Syria, owing to the deep covenant of blood with our Druze citizens in Israel. In addition to positioning itself as this protector of the Druze community in Syria, Israel has also vowed to enforce the demilitarization of southern Syria and prevent armed groups from entering the region next to the Golan Heights, which it controls. Blake Sifton for AnewZ in Tel Aviv.
Earlier, we spoke to political analyst Hamdi Rifai about the latest developments in Syria, including clashes involving the Druze and Bedouin communities, as well as the Syrian army and Israeli airstrikes targeting Syrian forces. Hamdi shared his opinion on the problematics of those Druze clans and their Israeli support.
Clearly, what we see is a very surprising turn of events. Yesterday, President al-Sharra was in Azerbaijan, in Baku, meeting with your President Aliyev, discussing the security arrangements in the region. And there's no question that during that meeting, there was a discussion about Israel and Israel's incursions into Syria. What we've seen is that Israel, instead of embracing Azerbaijan's initiative to create this security paradigm, also supported by the United States, it has chosen to continue to support a terror group created by al-Hijri, a Druze extremist, and he's actually holding other Druze in the Suwaida area as hostages against their will. He is not supported by the Druze community, and nothing that we've seen in that Suwaida area undermines the Syrian government. If anything, it undermines the possibility of security and stability between the neighbors and demonstrates that Israel is controlled by domestic extreme concerns and not pursuing a rational foreign policy. They've already succeeded in stabilizing the area. They've entered the area of Suwaida. They've released the hostages that were being held by al-Hijri. The locals living there are celebrating that the Syrian government has entered to bring that stability. This might have been a reasonable question yesterday when it was unknown what was the outcome going to be, but now we're seeing the outcome. Israel has failed. The Syrian government has brought stability back to the area. And the only real question is, what price will be paid by Israel and those Druze terrorists that have now killed almost 300 Syrian government soldiers in order for the Syrian government to bring that stability back. What Hajiri and his extremists have done, if they have actually paraded around Syrian government soldiers and their dead bodies. So it's not an issue of stability now. It's an issue of what will we see as an outcome with those relations between Israel and Syria.
American military aid has already been shipped to Ukraine. That's according to US President Donald Trump. It's after his meeting with NATO chief Mark Rutte this week, where he laid out plans to supply Kyiv with weapons at the expense of the European Union.
US President Donald Trump says a new batch of weapons have already been shipped to Ukraine. The move follows the meeting he had with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte on Monday. Trump announced plans to supply Kyiv with military aid, including Patriot missiles, funded by the alliance members.
Do you think the first Patriot missiles, some of these weapons that our allies will buy?
They're already being shipped.
From what countries?
They're coming in from Germany and then replaced by Germany, and in all cases, the United States gets paid back in full. So what's happening, as you know, is the European Union, if you look, mostly European Union stuff, but let's put it in the form of NATO. It's very similar. But NATO is going to pay us back for everything.
Trump also announced a 50-day grace period for Moscow, after which the United States will impose secondary tariffs at 100% on Russia and its trade partners if a peace deal on Ukraine is not reached. Russia has dismissed Trump's tax hikes as the result of pressure from the European Union and NATO, saying it will manage the economic consequences.
We, after all, an unprecedented number of sanctions against us have already been announced, and we are coping. I have no doubt that we will cope. This conclusion is also based on an assessment on the analysis of independent, including many Western economists and politicians.
Trump has not communicated with Russian President Vladimir Putin since announcing the new threat of sanctions. His tougher stance towards Russia reflects growing frustration with President Putin as the war in Ukraine continues without a resolution.
The European Union has failed to reach an agreement on a new sanctions package against Russia. Despite warnings about Russia's escalating bombing and use of banned chemical weapons in Ukraine, divisions among member states have stalled the deal for over 2 months. EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas warned Russia shows no sign of peace, making stronger pressure essential. She welcomed President Trump's weapons aid to Ukraine, but urged the US to share more of the burden. Slovakia has yet to make a decision, delaying the process, even though the EU Commission has met its demands.
So I'm really sad that we didn't reach this agreement today. I must say that we were really close to reassure Slovakia. The Commission has delivered what they asked for. Now the ball is in Slovakia's court, and we must get this deal done. It has been already 2 months.
US President Donald Trump has accused Democratic Senator Adam Schiff of mortgage fraud and said he should be brought to justice. The claim relates to Schiff allegedly declaring a Maryland home as his primary residence to secure a better mortgage rate. Schiff, who played a key role in Trump's 2020 impeachment, denies any wrongdoing and called the accusation political retaliation. According to the New York Post, the Federal Housing Finance Agency referred the case to the Justice Department for possible prosecution.
I'm here today to observe what's happening.
With less than 3 weeks until Donald Trump's new tariffs take effect, trade partners are reacting swiftly. Some are calling the move unfair, others are racing to cut deals before the 1st of August deadline.
Germany's powerful car makers are sounding the alarm over US President Donald Trump's planned 30% tariff on European imports, which are set to begin on the 1st of August. The Mittelstand, the core of Germany's economy, warns that the measure could seriously harm manufacturing and export sectors.
If the US tariffs were to actually be implemented to the extent that has been threatened, this would of course have a massive impact on our American business. It would completely change our position on the American market, and we would have to see how we could react to this situation.
The European Union has called the tariffs unacceptable and fears they could bring transatlantic trade to a halt. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni urged a fast-track agreement with Washington, saying the EU must work with the US and the European Commission to secure a deal that benefits both sides.
We must avoid at all costs a trade war between the two sides of the Atlantic. We will continue, together with the other leaders and in constant contact with the Commission, to work towards an agreement that can be mutually beneficial and must be concluded before next August 1st.
Meanwhile, Trump has revealed major progress in Asia. He says a trade deal with Vietnam is nearly finalized, lowering US tariffs from 46% to 20%. However, goods illegally rerouted through Vietnam will still face a 40% tax.
We have a Vietnam deal, and I would say that that deal is being pretty well set. It's pretty well set. Again, that's an opening of their country. They've opened it up. Just so you know, these were closed countries. They were wonderful people, wonderful leaders, very strong, smart leaders. But their countries were closed to us, but our country wasn't closed to them. And so I said, you got to open up your country. So we're going to see.
Trump also announced that Indonesia will pay 19% tariffs, while the United States pays none, gaining full access to Indonesian markets. In Brazil, Vice President Geraldo Alckmin says the country will push to reverse the new 50% tax hike on Brazilian goods. He criticized the move as unfair and hinted at a need to extend the negotiation timeline.
And what we heard here is negotiation. In other words, a commitment to reviewing matters that align with the proposal of the Brazilian government and President Lula. It was also pointed out that the time frame is tight, that it's a short deadline, and that we should perhaps work to extend it.
Other countries Trump has threatened with high tariffs include Canada, Mexico, Japan, and South Korea. The American president had paused his harshest tariff plans earlier this year, but this month he brought them back, sending warning letters to many countries with a deadline of the 1st of August.
Devastating flash floods have hit parts of New Jersey in the US, leaving 2 people dead and entire neighborhoods underwater. Authorities have declared a state of emergency as the cleanup begins and the full scale of the damage is assessed.
Floodwaters have tore through New Jersey, swallowing cars, cutting off roads and leaving behind a trail of destruction. Footage filmed by a bus passenger in Gutenberg shows murky water pouring onto the streets and inside the vehicle. In Plainfield, streets resembled lakes with cars submerged and homes surrounded by rising water. And aerials from Somerset County revealed the scale of flooding in residential areas. New Jersey's Governor Phil Murphy declared a state of emergency and confirmed that 2 people had died in Plainfield when their vehicle was swept away by floodwaters.
We had some serious weather that hit us last night, and we had, sadly, 2 fatalities in Plainfield and a car that was swept away. Stay tuned. We'll have a better sense of, God willing, there's no more fatalities that we don't know about. We'll have a better sense of the damages over the next 48 hours, and we'll make sure we keep folks posted. But please keep the families of those loved ones in your prayers, of those who lost their lives, as well as folks who may be displaced from homes.
The governor said that some areas were hit with more than 6 inches of rain under 3 hours. Major roads remain shut, and emergency crews are still assessing the scale of damage across the state. Officials are urging people to avoid travel and to keep clear of floodwaters as further storms remain a threat.
In southeastern Spain, anger over a recent assault a week ago has sparked days of unrest and anti-migrant clashes. In the town of Torre Pacheco, locals rallied Tuesday demanding action as tensions between far-right groups and North African migrants continue to escalate.
Dozens of residents gathered in Torre Pacheco on Tuesday to protest against migrants, following 4 nights of violent clashes between far-right groups and North African residents and workers in the Murcia region. The tensions flared after a local man in his 60s was assaulted last week. Authorities say they've arrested 3 Moroccan nationals in connection with the attack, including a 19-year-old believed to be the main suspect. Locals describe a growing sense of fear.
We are tired of this situation, very tired. We go out and we are insecure. I have 2 children and they have to go out because it's their town. But I'm always extremely worried when they are out in the street.
The solution? For them to leave, that's the best thing I can think of. That's the solution. Those who don't have legal paperwork should leave. That's the only thing.
Police deployed more than 120 officers to maintain order and have arrested at least 14 people since the violence began. Leaders of the local Moroccan community have called for calm and urged young people to stay at home for the time being. Migrants, many of them second generation, make up about 1/3 of Torre Pacheco's population of about 40,000.
A forest fire that started in western Turkey's Tekirdağ province has spread to neighbouring Çanakkale. Firefighting crews say they're working around the clock to contain the flames. The blaze began around noon in a non-forest area and later spread toward the town of Kavakköy in Çanakkale's Gelibolu district. The cause is still unknown. Firefighting teams are continuing their efforts on the ground, trying to bring the situation under control. The European Union has unveiled investment plans of up to 2.5 billion euros for Armenia as part of the Global Gateway strategy, aiming to boost infrastructure and economic ties. An additional 1.5 million euros was pledged to support Armenia's independent media. These commitments followed Prime Minister of Armenia Nikol Pashinyan's working visit to Brussels, where he met with EU leaders Antonio Costa and Ursula von der Leyen. Both sides had reaffirmed their deepening partnership, while Pashinyan reflected on the discussions as productive and substantive. A residential building has collapsed in the central district of Tbilisi, prompting ongoing rescue operations and formal investigation. Our Georgia correspondent, Nini Nikolashvili, has the details.
2 people are now confirmed dead and 1 injured after the residential building collapsed in the heart of Tbilisi near Station Square. According to the Ministry of Internal Affairs, rescue and recovery efforts are ongoing and the area remains sealed off. An investigation has been launched under Article 240 of the Criminal Code, covering violation of construction and safety regulations. Earlier, the building has been officially classified as an emergency structure, deemed too dangerous for even rehabilitation. The city mayor, AnewZ, admitted today that the risks were well known, and yet the residents were still living inside when the building gave way. The authorities have offered relocation to tenants, but under the voluntary agreement that required full consensus. The consensus never came, and authorities chose not to enforce an evacuation despite knowing the structure could fail. The city mayor, AnewZ, described this incident as an accident. Meanwhile, the public defender's office announced that this would examine issues related to residential safety in the collapsed building. It's Nini Nicolai reporting from Tbilisi, AnewZ.
China's steadily strengthening its position in Central Asia. Its economic influence is being felt not only in business circles, but also in national policies across the region. The expansion of Chinese capital is especially visible in Uzbekistan and Tajikistan. Our Central Asia correspondent, Fariza Kalimurzina, has the details.
China is expanding its economic presence across Central Asia. In Uzbekistan, the number of foreign invested companies is growing rapidly, and China now leads all other countries in terms of investment. According to the National Statistics Committee, as of July 1st, there are 16,685 businesses operating in Uzbekistan with foreign capital. That's nearly 3,000 more than a year ago, an increase of almost 20%. And China remains the top investor. Over 4,000 Chinese companies are registered in the country, making up 25.1% of all foreign enterprises. Last year, China surpassed Russia in this area for the first time, increasing its presence by nearly 44%. Russia ranks second, followed by Turkey and Kazakhstan, and other notable investors include South Korea and Afghanistan. China's role is even more prominent in neighboring Tajikistan, where it has become the country's leading trading partner, overtaking Russia for the first time since the late 1990s. In the first 5 months of 2025, trade between China and Tajikistan reached $964 million, a 31% increase year on year. China's share of Tajikistan's foreign trade rose to 24.8%, exceeding Russia's 23.2%. According to the Agency for Statistics of Tajikistan, over 70% of Chinese investment in country comes as direct investment. And Chinese companies are active in key sectors such as energy, infrastructure, telecommunications, mining and construction. Millions of dollars have been invested in roads, tunnels and power lines. China also remains Tajikistan's largest external creditor. As of early 2025, the country's debt to China stood at around $1 billion, about 1/3 of Tajikistan's total external debt. Experts emphasize that China's role in the region goes beyond economics. Its influence is becoming more strategic and shows no signs of slowing down. Fariza Kalimurzina, AnewZ, in Almaty, Kazakhstan.
Kazakhstan is sticking with the OPEC Plus deal despite producing more oil than its targets this year. The country's Prime Minister made the announcement at a press conference. He clarified that Kazakhstan is not an OPEC member but participates in OPEC Plus. He said a $49 billion expansion at the Tengiz field under a production sharing agreement prevents limiting partner output, causing the country to exceed production targets this year. Kazakhstan has informed OPEC Plus members of this in advance. The United Nations is warning of a looming humanitarian collapse in Afghanistan. A high-level meeting between the UN mission chief and a senior Afghan official comes as aid agencies face a $1 billion shortfall, just as refugee returns from neighbouring countries surge. Our Afghanistan correspondent Tamim Bahis has more from Kabul.
The administrative deputy of Prime Minister Abdulsalam Hanafi met with Rosa Atunbayeva, head of the United Nations Assistant Mission in Afghanistan. According to the Prime Minister's office, Atunbayeva emphasized that despite ongoing budget constraint, UNAMA remains committed to supporting newly returned Afghan refugees. She raised concern over the accelerating pace of returns from Iran, adding that talks are underway with neighboring countries and expressing hope for positive regional cooperation. Hanafi in turn urged international organizations to scale up support and promised that the government would work to address the needs of returning families. Meanwhile, the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs has sounded the alarm over a massive funding gap. The new OCHA report says only 53% of the $3.06 billion required for Afghanistan's 2024 humanitarian response plan has been funded, leaving a shortfall of $1.43 billion. So far, 67% of aid recipients have only received food support, while less than half have access to multi-sectoral assistance. OCHA is now calling on the international community to urgently step in, warning that without immediate action, critical humanitarian efforts in Afghanistan may collapse. Tamim Bahis reporting for AnewZ in Kabul, Afghanistan.
Organisers of the 2026 Winter Olympics in Italy revealed the official medals. Each features the Olympic rings and event details with a similar design for the Paralympics. The medals were produced by Italy's state mint, IPZS, under the Economy Ministry. A total of 245 medals per ranking will be awarded at the Olympics and 137 at the Paralympics. The Games run next year from the 6th to the 22nd of February across Milan and Cortina. It's a big week in sport with major headlines from the Club World Cup and Women's Euros. Our Nick Summerby joins us live here from Manchester. Good morning, Nick.
Good morning.
So how's it looking? Chelsea winning the Club World Cup. Did we expect it?
We didn't really. I mean, they are the world champions. First and foremost, we didn't know very much about the tournament because this was the first time that it took place, and I think it was a success. We saw that in the final with 82,000 people there, and the President of the United States who was there at the end with the celebrations. But it was really about Paris Saint-Germain. You know, this is the team at the moment who have taken it to another level, if you like. They won the European Cup, and in a semi-final, they just blew Real Madrid away. Chelsea did wonderful, and nobody really gave them a chance in the final. But they absolutely played their plan, and they beat Paris Saint-Germain 3-0. 2 goals from Cole Palmer and João Pedro as well, and it was a well-deserved performance. And you look at Maresca, the manager. His tactics were right, his team was right. They've done some good business as well in the summer, so they've really strengthened their forward line. And you expect them to have a really good season next season in the Premier League, but it was a huge success. You just look at the pictures there. I mean, some of the Chelsea players were talking. Donald Trump stayed with the celebrations at the end. I mean, this is the President of the United States. He stood there. They're all cheering. They've got the trophy up in the air, and Donald Trump's right in the middle of it just to round it off. And you get a good feeling with Chelsea now. They're coming together. They have a good young team, and obviously with a bit of experience as well, they could possibly do something. But a massive successful campaign for them. And we're only about 4 weeks away now until the Premier League starts. So congratulations to Chelsea. I didn't think that would happen against Paris Saint-Germain, but what an achievement for them.
Let's talk about the Women's Euros and the quarter-final fixtures. Sweden and England have been doing pretty well this tournament. What can we expect there?
Yeah, well, we've got, there's 4 teams there, Norway, Sweden, Spain and France, who haven't been defeated. Spain, who I would possibly say are the favourites, they've scored 14 goals in the tournament so far. So you're starting to see the quality. England, they got beat by France in their opening game, but the last 2 games they've scored 10 goals. So you're really starting to get the quality coming into this quarterfinals. We've got Norway versus Italy, Sweden versus England, versus Switzerland, France versus Germany. And I think what we're looking at now is the progression in women's football. From where it was maybe 10 years ago to where it is now, the money's been pumped into it, and we can see the quality, the excitement, how it's absolutely captivated the world, really. So in these quarterfinals, semi-finals and finals, really expect some quality and some magic really to come forward. But just the main thing is it's been the enjoyment. It's been about how much they've improved and what women's football and whereabouts it is now. So expect a lot in these quarterfinals and semi-finals. This is when it really starts to get exciting.
Okay, and of course for Liverpool and Portugal it's been a pretty tough week. How have fans been paying tribute to Diogo Jota and his brother following the deadly car crash?
Yeah, it's been a difficult time in the world of football and outside of that to hear the news of the 2 brothers. Car crash and the death of them. It was in the footballing world we come together, but this went beyond that. Now the Liverpool fans, they had their opportunity to come together and show their respect, and they would do it even more. They started their pre-season friendly off at Preston North End. This is where the great Bill Shankly came from. It's their opening game, and it was a chance to show their respects. The players at the end of the game went to the Liverpool fans. The Liverpool fans were singing the Jota song and singing "You'll Never Walk Alone," and it was touching. And Liverpool will come together. They will come together for the family. And they will help, and expect more of it when the opening game or when they play at Anfield. There'll be a big send-off as well there. Now the number 20 shirt, what Jota wore, that will no longer be used again. So a sign of respect for that. But really difficult times. I wonder how the players are going to react to it. You know, because they're a close-knit team. All working together, and when you lose somebody in that sort of way, I wonder how it affects them. I wonder how is it going to affect their season? Is it going to bring them together more? Is it going to make them more determined? But expect a lot more of this from Liverpool. Outside, you got I think the Manchester United manager and a couple of players. They went to put their wreath down outside Anfield the other day, and they've got all from the fans, and you've got it's a huge part of the stadium where everyone's come to show their respect. So we had a little bit of an idea of it at Preston North End, but expect more of it. But it's sad times. It's something which is away from football, but it's going to be interesting to see how Liverpool deal with it and move forward.
Indeed. Okay, and let's talk transfer news, Nick. Newcastle are looking for more firepower. Arsenal, of course, signing Christian Nugard from Brentford. Pardon my pronunciation, but Gyökeres and Mosquera coming, and potentially Rodrigo. And now Henderson joining Brentford. What are your thoughts there?
It's really starting to heat up. Liverpool have done their business as well with Wirtz, and they're looking for the centre forward. Itakike is the new one which we're looking at the moment, which Newcastle looks like is reading in the papers today. Liverpool need that centre forward. And you feel if they do get the centre forward, they were talking about Isak from Newcastle. I don't think that's going to be the case. But if they do get a big goal scorer, they are firm favourites to win the Premier League. But there are things happening. Arsenal, Zubamendi, they brought in Kepa, the goalkeeper, Nugard, is what you said there. There's no party for Arsenal, so obviously they need to shore that midfield up, and they've done that with Zubamendi. But they need a centre forward. Gyökeres is the one at the moment. They seem to be. They're in negotiations, but it's taking its time a bit. Just watch this space. Arsenal need that. The fans want that. They want a goal scorer. If they do get a goal scorer, they are in the title mix as well. But at this time of the season, all around the world of football, there is a lot of talk about players coming into football clubs, but there is movement. There's a lot happening, and especially in the Premier League. It's going to be exciting. Manchester City brought 4 or 5 players in as well. So, you know, when that season starts, it's really going to be something special. But I just get the feeling as well with Newcastle, if they do get this TK, and then they play Isaac up front as well, I mean, that's firepower. That's going to take them to another level as well. So I've got that real bit of excitement. I can't wait for it to happen. I can't wait for it to start again. I can't wait to see these in action. But that Premier League's got a real bit of it's got something's going to happen. It's going to be taken to a next level. Also, Rashford from Manchester United, he might be going to Barcelona. Barcelona have made him the #1 target. So watch out for that. There's a lot of rumours, but we'll be right on top of it, and I'll keep you up to date with who signs and who actually, because there's talking, but once they get that pen on the paper, and all of a sudden I can reveal and tell you who signed for who. But it's exciting times in the world of football with all the players moving around.
Okay, and lastly, Nick, what do we have coming up this week in the world of sport?
Royal Portrush is the one. It's the Golf Open. Rory McIlroy, who is going back to Northern Ireland. I mean, there's photographs of him at the golf course when he was a youngster. Before he was a superstar, he's going back. They played it in 2019. And that was Shane Lowry who won it as well, the Irishman. So keep your eye out on him. It's going to be difficult with Scheffler and Rory McIlroy to do something special. So they're going there. Keep your eye on. If you're a golfer, it all starts off, I think, Friday. So that's going to be wonderful. That then can Rory McIlroy, after winning the Masters, can he all of a sudden go home and just and round it off with a massive triumph there, though? But that's going to be huge. You've got Usyk versus Daniel Dubois at Wembley Stadium in front of 80,000. If you like boxing, it doesn't get any bigger than this. All the belts on the line. Who is going to beat Usyk? I mean, he's beaten Tyson Fury twice. These two have fought, and Daniel Dubois has had him. It was a low body shot, but it's caused a lot of friction between the ex-boxers and pundits saying, was it a low body shot? Was it? Should it have been? Did he knock him down? But Usyk went on and won the fight. But you look at Daniel Dubois, from that he fought Anthony Joshua in his last fight, and he knocked him out in dramatic style, and he's capable of doing it. He is matured, he's learned his trade a lot more, and he is powerful. He's possibly one of the most powerful punchers in boxing. So that is at Wembley on Saturday. If you like also your rugby, you've got the British Lions against Australia. They've just come off 2 victories, but this is the acid test. This is when they play against Australia. So if you like your rugby, that'll be on in the morning as well. Cricket as well. England and India. England have taken the lead. It was a draw, but England on the 3rd test have taken the lead. So a lot to play for, I think, with 2 more games to go. But this weekend is a big weekend with everything. Pretty much away from football, but as I said, the main one for me will be Wembley Stadium, watching the boxing there for all the titles. So a lot to watch this weekend.
Okay, Nick, thank you so much for the roundup there. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And that's all we have from Baku for now. Have a wonderful morning and stay tuned to AnewZ for more updates.